aspects that goes on is hiring these contractors. Are all the contractors that you guys hire also federal workers? And if not, if they're not federal employees, technically they can move on to other projects. They can move on to other things. So what's going to happen if the government, is off this shutdown and then you need them, but they're like, oh, sorry, I didn't know how long this was going to go on, so I've moved on. How is that going to work?
And they would absolutely be within their right to do that.
Right, absolutely.
But there's no contract signed between non-federal employee and the federal agency, so they could very easily pack up and go to another company and go work for somebody else.
Wow.
And in which case, the federal government, my agencies in particular, would still be like in a precarious position trying to figure out, well, how do we get this work done without contractor employees?
Wow.
Well, let me ask this last question before Amber takes us to the break. And Carla, I certainly hope you can come back with us after the break, because this has been great to get your perspective. What you mentioned about the contracts, and you as the contracting officer had to tell the folks that, okay, shut it down after 5:00. Do people understand also the additional costs that are incurred when you have to close out a contract early and then try to start something over again? Can you kind of talk about that?
So those are called mobilization and demobilization costs.
Right.
So when you write a contract, you automatically have those mobilization and demobilization costs built into the contract. So when the contractor starts the job, he knows what he has to pay, and when he finishes the job and he takes all his equipment off, he knows what he has to pay. But if I'm telling a contractor, okay, you have to demobilize in the middle of the job and then remobilize, oh my God, you're talking about tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Wow.
Just in that process alone. Forget per diem, the cost of what it takes for these contractors to stay in a hotel, to drive back and forth from their homes to the site every day, food, all the other incidentals of running their business. And then now we're saying the government, our part of the government, is not going to pay you because we're not getting paid.
Wow.
They're not going to get that. They're not going to understand that. And they're not. It's not like what your president is suggesting. Oh, just tell them you'll be able to do a trade for a service, or walk their dog, or paint their house. No, these contractors are going to say, no, you got to pay us, period.
Wow.
We don't have any other alternative. They relied on our agency to pay them to do this job. And because we can't pay them to do that job, that means they got to go take other jobs someplace else and hope that when the federal government does open up, that they're available to come back onto our site. The problem is going to be is if the government opens back up and we call them and say, okay, come back to work, and they say, sorry, we had to take another job. And then we have to wait until they're available.
Wow, that's
again.
right.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's just such a big snowball effect. Like one thing is affecting something else, which affects something else, and on down the line.
Wow.
So this is not just a cut and dry, black and white issue of reopen the federal government. This affects a whole lot of other areas.
Wow. Well, this has been a great discussion so far. We have to cut to commercial really quick, but when we come back, we're going to continue this discussion on this now infamous federal shutdown. So we'll be right back.
You're listening to Straight No Chaser. We'll be right back.
Today in school, I learned a lot. In chemistry, I learned that no one likes me. In English, I learned that I'm disgusting. And in physics, I learned that I'm a loser.
Today in school, I learned that I'm ugly and useless. And in gym, I learned that I'm pathetic and a joke. In history, I learned that I'm trash.
Today in school, I learned that I have no friends. In English, I learned that I make people sick. And at lunch, I learned that I sit on my own because I smell. In chemistry, I learned that no one likes me.
In biology, I learned that I'm fat and stupid. And in math, I learned that I'm trash.
The only thing I didn't learn in school today?
The only thing I didn't learn today?
The only thing I didn't learn
is why no one ever helps.
Kids witness bullying every day. They want to help, but they don't know how. Teach them how to stop bullying and be more than a bystander at stopbullying.gov. A message from the Ad Council.
The path to happiness is not the easy one, but taking drugs will not make it easier. Many people got lost and end up losing their life to drugs. If you or anyone that you know is within that path, don't be afraid to seek for help. Visit www.adk.gov.my for information related to drug abuse. So, know your path. This message is brought to you by the National Anti-Drugs Agency.
Where I wanted to quit, in the back of my mind, I told myself I have to quit. And just that day when I reached for that cigarette, I'll never forget it, with my son looking at me. And it was like a bolt of lightning hit me, where I finally realized the big picture of what year after year and cigarette after cigarette had done. And I said, that's it. I'm done. I quit. Took him a whole pack, brand new pack. Took him, threw him out the window, and I don't litter. But that's it. I'm done. I quit. No, it's going to kill me. It's going to be cancer. But I don't have to make it sooner than it needs to be. He was shocked, and he says, I really hope you mean that, Mom.
You're listening to Straight No Chaser. So let's get back to your girl MBZ, Pastor C, Thin Bad, and the Chief.
Welcome back, good people. We have been talking about the government shutdown and its impact across America. This shutdown is just brought chaos beyond belief. And in fact, we were just listening before the break how it's not a matter of just flipping a switch and everything going back to normal. Once again, my experience as a legislator in Maryland, it's just, I can't fathom a time when, we wouldn't be able to get the state's work done, in terms of its budget and all of the things that it would take to run the state. We would have disagreements on policy issues, sure, but we would be able to work those things out, and we would never think of catching the citizens of the state up in all of whatever political shenanigans we had going on. We had a whole lot of spirited debates of, that's short, a lot of disagreements, but hurting state employees, hurting people who helped the state move. And ultimately, all of the citizens of Maryland was just not an option for either party or the governor. So to think that members of, the House and the Senate, well, in this particular case, I guess it's a lot more Senate, but there's some House stuff too. And the president, this is just crazy because all of these, all these folks have the ability to go get through these tough issues and handle the people's business. So I'm really at a loss to kind of figure out what the real problem is. It's just a lot of bullheadedness. And again, as I said, the old African proverb that says, "When the elephants fight, it's the grass that suffers."
That's right.
Each section of this government has a statutory authority and duties and responsibilities. And I asked the same question last week: when is this going to stop? But now we're into month number 2. People are on the verge of getting a second check with no money in it. Wow. Which to me is kind of like adding insult to injury too. And some of these letters that you're talking about that have been going out, with like helpful hints of how to make money. Hey, cut grass, or
like what?
Drive Uber, and all of this other stuff. Like, yo, this. I mean, that's insult to injury. That is.
Yeah.
I mean, you're recommending. You're recommending
and
for
ridiculous.
FBI
And again,
agents and stuff to do Uber.
Yeah, you've got FBI agents doing Uber. You've got people doing all kinds of things. And then bad, if I could just add real quick, you've got one of the whole things. This is around this border wall that is supposed to magically make us safer. And my background is in law enforcement. I did it for many years, and so I know a little bit about this. And so, when you look at the statistics about this whole wall thing, in terms of, because we always hear that drugs are pouring in, illegals are pouring in, all kinds of things. This is, what we're being told. 90% of the heroin that comes into the country is coming through the ports. 88% of the cocaine, 87% of the meth, and 80% of the fentanyl, which is the most deadly drug that's out here right now. Yep. This is not coming over the wall. You know what I mean? And so to sit there and say that, this is why we're trying to shut this thing down is just asinine.
Right.
And I think we all get it, particularly, and I'm going to yield back to you. I think we all get it. If your party is in power, then your party sort of has the say so on what's going on. But, it used to be, when the Republicans were in party, the Republicans did Republican things, the Democrats did Democratic things. But you never got the feel, though, that there was just this deliberate attempt to create pain. And when you've got just in furloughed workers alone, and I know I'm not even scratching the surface about the other things that are suffering, but when you have 800,000 employees that are not getting a check, and then you're not astute enough to say, wow, so that means that they're not going on vacations, they're not buying bread, they're not going to restaurants and all those other things. And then the thousands of contractors who are now furloughing and laying off and terminating employees. This is ridiculous. So I just had to say that, then bad, and you do your thing.
Yeah. They're not thinking any of this stuff through. I think, as we've seen time and time again with this administration, everything is reactive. I think, we saw the situation where they were taking, children away from families, and then they had to double back and try to connect the children back to the families and things like that. It was reactive because they never planned on doing that. So they had no plan for like, oops, wait a minute. So everything is reactive. They don't really understand, I think, how government works in the administration. Again, I believe that the president thinks that, you know what, I can just say, we're opening the government back up and everything will be like normal. And no, it's not. Like the caller stated, there's a ripple effect that you don't understand what the total effect is until this thing is over. It's just crazy. I think there was, in the state legislature, when I was in the state legislature, there were certain issues that you couldn't really be whipped on. I mean, you couldn't be browbeaten by leadership to vote a particular way or vote the party.
Mm-hmm. I think we lost Thin Bad, but we'll get him right back. But, one of the other things, just to piggyback on this point, the collateral damage has been ridiculous. One of the things that we heard earlier today on Chris Hayes, he was talking about the Association of National Air Traffic Controllers, a gentleman by the name of Mike Del Moro, and his